Of the Queer Money follow-up series covering episode 41 of the Queer Money podcast. And today we're asking you whether or not you remember as a kid. Oh, shit. Oh. Well, anyway, follow us, and share your stuff. Share our stuff. We would appreciate it.
By the way, happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
We're trying some new
John's ready to just go at it, right?
We're trying some new technology here, and I clearly failed. Anyway, we want to ask you today is if you remember as a teenager whether or not you understood money, because I know that I didn't, and I think most people that I've ever talked to in my entire life said they had no concept of money when they were a teenager.
I've got a little bit of an interesting story when it comes to money. When I was a kid, I think I might have started off with a bad money story because of something that happened when I think I was probably about 9 or 10. My family, this is back in the day when we had VCRs. So this shows you how old we are. And we actually rented it. My family didn't purchase one. So we would go to the video store, rent a VCR and a video for a couple of days, bring it home and watch. And I remember I was probably about 9, I think. And I had a paper route where I was delivering papers once a week, just kind of one of those simple things that they hang on the door. And we rented a VCR, and somehow I ended up spilling lemonade on the tape itself. My dad freaked out, so he put the tape in the machine and ended up contaminating the machine. We took everything back to the store. Well, and we ended up having to replace the VCR. Guess who had to pay for it? My parents made me pay for it. All the money that I had earned in my savings account, it was over $200. And so I had been saving up all this money because I can't remember. I think I wanted a bike, but I can't remember exactly what it was that I wanted back then. And all of a sudden, all the money I had and all the money for the rest of the year, basically, that I earned, because I was only earning like $10 a week, was basically given to my parents to pay for this mistake that was partly mine, but also partly my dad's. And I was very irritated by this. And I think that taught me a bad lesson about money, that although I was working and putting money into my savings account, and I was working and making money, it was all going to someone else.
Right. Welcome to that's
your
first experience with taxes.
Right. So I think that's where I kind of had this. Maybe that's where I got my feeling about money, or my understanding of money.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So it's interesting. We're going on a tangent here. We didn't get a VCR immediately. I don't know why my parents were averse to getting it, and for whatever reason, my dad was in sales, and a client of his, for whatever reason, had a bunch of extra VCRs, but you couldn't record anything, and you could only hit play and rewind. It only had like 2 or 3 functions. You couldn't like fast forward. You couldn't rewind. You could rewind, but you couldn't fast forward. And yeah, it was just really weird. It had very limited capabilities, and so we had that for the longest time. And then, we were both
raised in cheap ass families.
My parents clearly have changed their tune on all the technology because now they've got all the things.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in case you didn't see it earlier, we would love it if you would like, comment, and share. Follow us as we talk about this.
Right.
Anyway, so on episode 41 of the Queer Money podcast, we interviewed teen entrepreneur Eva Baker. Eva Baker has a very interesting story. Her website is called teensgotsense.com, or I guess that's the address. And so she was homeschooled, and one of her projects to graduate was that she had to start she had to do a project. And the idea her mom encouraged her to do was just to lay the foundation for what it would be like to start a business. So she was toying with the idea of a business that she might want to start, not actually in reality, but just as part of her project. And simultaneously, her parents had recently gotten divorced, and her mom was listening to a lot of Dave Ramsey tapes that she would get from the library for free.
CDs. They were actually, this is much
CDs.
more current. They were listening to CDs in her car.
So I'm dating myself. Because her mom.
By the way, Dave Ramsey. I think it's pretty clear right now he's a big fucktard.
So anyway, her mom was simultaneously listening to these CDs, and Now you got me off track here. I got distracted.
So anyway, she was listening to the CDs, and she found that she was very interested in this topic of personal finance and debt.
Right.
She didn't understand a lot about debt, but didn't understand why adults would go into debt and why they would make this mistake and have, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars in credit card debt and student loan debt that they would never be able to pay off, and they were always worried about it. She said, I don't want that to be my life. So she started to go out on the internet and started looking at information that was out there about personal finance. And what she found was that the vast majority of information is geared towards adults who clearly are not paying much attention to it. But then she said that anything that was related to younger people was constantly reminding them, start saving for retirement as soon as you can. And she said there wasn't a whole lot of basic information about personal finance or about money that was geared towards teens. And she said, I'm interested in this. I'm sure there are other teens who are interested in it. We talked about Justin Bieber on the podcast. She said, we want to buy Justin Bieber CDs or concert tickets. We want to buy a car. We want to go out with our friends. We need money for that. We need to understand the process. So she said, you know what? I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to create a website that is geared towards teens and helping teens understand money, because there isn't a whole lot of information out there. And that's how she got started with this business that today she's now in her early 20s, but when we recorded this, actually she was 20 when we recorded this and had 5 employees in her business. Here she is, 20 years old, started this business when she was in her high school. I think she was about 16 or 17. Now has a business where she's helping young people understand more about money. And we thought this was very compelling because there are a lot of queer kids, especially kids who are in family situations that are not accepting, that really it is important for us or for them to know how money works and how it can be a benefit and not a big problem in their lives.
Exactly. And so Eva reached out to us to come on our podcast, in part because of the work that she has done in Jacksonville, Florida, for the Jasmine LGBT Center down there. She goes to centers and libraries and YMCAs all over the area to talk to whomever she can speak to about teenagers, about finance. And she connected with the Jasmine Center down in Jacksonville, Florida, because she wanted to serve the LGBTQ community. And part of our concern is that 40% of homeless youth identify as LGBTQ. And if you're homeless, I mean, that just creates a whole bunch of barriers and circumstances that are challenges that we've never had to overcome, but that make money even more challenging.
Right.
And we know from studies that have been done all over the place that queer college graduates tend to have not only more credit card debt, but also more student loan debt than the general population. So we wanted to have Eva on to talk about what can LGBTQ high school students do to educate themselves financially and also prepare for college so that then when they graduate, they have a little bit more understanding of finance than maybe their parents did, and hopefully aren't in as much debt as contemporary students are. So on this particular episode, we talked about that. And so we're going to share on this particular series 5 steps that teens can start to do today to start preparing themselves, to educate themselves about finance and preparing themselves for adulthood with money. So our first tip is to, as soon as you can, and maybe you'll need to have a cosigner of your parent, open up a free checking account, and also step number 2, open up a free savings account. There are a number of free online banks that you can use, ones you can access through your phone, that you don't necessarily need to actually go into a bank. The benefit of that is not only is it kind of more customized to the tools and resources that teenagers like to use, their phones, do kids still use tablets today? But virtual or mobile options, but also they tend to have lower fees and higher savings accounts or savings rates.
Yeah.
So there can be a couple of benefits there.
One of the interesting things is Prudential did a study back in 2018. The data came out in 2018. And when they looked at queer folks, LGBTQ folks versus the general population, 66% of the general population had at least two traditional banking products, such as a checking account, a savings account, a money market account, a CD, which is a certificate of deposit. It's kind of a long-term way of saving money. They found that 66% of the general population had at least two of those. The queer community, 50% of us only had one, and 50% had none. Now, why is it important for us to have at least a checking and savings account? So if you've ever earned a paycheck and you want to cash that paycheck, if it's a physical check, oftentimes you have to go to a place where you can cash that. If you don't have a bank account, you're going to go somewhere that is likely going to charge you a fee for that. If you want to pay for a service, like say, for example, pay for your cell phone bill, you're going to have to pay for that oftentimes either through an automatic withdrawal from an account, or you're going to have to write a check for that, send that bill in. If you don't have a checking or savings account, you're confined to only doing things with cash, which means you're going to oftentimes end up spending more money to do the same things that people who have a checking and savings account already do. So the reason why we say as a teen, get started with that checking and savings account is because it's going to save you money in the long run. It's also going to establish you with working inside of the financial services construct. What happens when we use these kinds of institutions? Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be a bank. There's lots of credit unions. There's lots of places where you can open up a checking or savings account. But please do that first. Let's change that statistic so that more of us have checking and savings accounts.
And then when you get your first job, which is something we're going to talk about here shortly, you can start to have your money deposited into that checking account, and you can start using it, as David said, with the tools and resources that you're going to actually want to use as adults.
Yeah.
The next tip here, we got a lot of questions from friends during the whole GameStop Robinhood fiasco, because a lot of their kids who are in school were like, what's going on? We're obviously they were aware of GameStop and the benefits of GameStop, but suddenly they were hearing about investing and how this is getting all sorts of attention. So we had some friends reach out to us and said, how can my kids learn about investing, especially since I don't know about investing?
Right.
And so we found two really great resources. The one is the stockmarketgame.org. It's a free resource that your kids can use. Very often they partner with schools, so there's a good chance that your kid's school might already be partnering with stockmarketgame.org. If not, you can maybe encourage them to do it. But the whole concept is that it gives students play money to be able to invest in the stock market, in actual real stocks at their current price, so they can actually, as best as they possibly can, get the true experience of investing in the stock market. The limitations are that you can't invest in the stock market until you're 18 years old. So that's the benefit of a game like this. Another tool, not as robust, but also very adaptable for students, is the Busy Kit app. It's an investing tool that similarly mirrors stockmarketgame.org. It isn't as finesse, but if you're looking for something a little bit more accessible, something that's on their phone, that might be something to look into. And it can show you the benefits of investing. It can show you the downfalls of investing. And I think a lot of people who got into investing recently because of GameStop have experienced both of them.
Yeah. Point number 4 is we want to encourage you to start earning some income. One of the keys to being able to get out on your own, which a lot of queer teens want to get out on their own if they're not in a supportive family situation, one of the ways to do that is to have some financial stability. If you have a part-time job that you work during the summer or after school, or you have a side hustle that allows you to bring some money in, this will help you establish a foundation of confidence that will allow you, if you need to leave home, I didn't come out until I was 26, and I say that part of the reason that I didn't do that was because in my teens, I did not establish a good financial I didn't establish financial security for myself. I was constantly reliant on my parents. And that wasn't a good thing for me because that kept me trapped in their religious ideology. So get a part-time job. Start earning some money so that you can put it in that checking and savings account. That will help you build some stability that will help you be able to make decisions that are best for you.
Exactly. And Eva Baker, as well as her website, Teens Got Sense, is a great resource for figuring out how to make your own money, either as a W-2 employee working for someone else, or if you want to create your own side hustle. She's a great inspiration, has a lot of tools and resources for that. And then our final tip here comes from a question that we often get from students as they're about ready to leave high school or go into college. There's this conundrum of, well, I need to get credit, but nobody will give me the opportunity to get credit, so I can't get credit. So it's kind of like I need to get experience to get a job, but nobody will give me a job to get experience. There is a little bit of a loophole, and this might require the assistance of your parents if you're over 16. You maybe not so much, but what you can do is go to the gas station and get a gas station credit card. If you have a car or you're driving, you're going to need to spend money on gas anyway, and you're more likely to get approved for a gas station credit card because the limitations on a gas station credit card are more restrictive. You can only spend so much at a gas station, right? Unless you're going to eat all the food in the in the 7-Eleven.
Yeah, don't dine breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the convenience store, right?
You're not gonna. There are a lot of restrictions there, so you're more likely to get approved. And then go ahead and put whatever money you need to spend on gas every week or every 2 weeks on that credit card, and then pay it off immediately. Right. At the ideally before the end of the month, before the due date. Do that for a little, even just a couple months, but especially if you're going to do this for a couple of years before you actually apply for a traditional credit card. This is a great way for you to get some experience with not only using a credit card, but also build credit. Another option that you can do is if you're on a family phone plan, or you want to help pay for any of the amenities that your family takes advantage of, maybe have one of those bills put in your name and get in the habit of paying that bill every month with the assistance of your parents. Having that bill under your name will also help you establish some credit. So as I shared on this particular episode, there's always, if you're looking for opportunities, there are ways to find them. And I think Eva Baker is a great example of that. And these 5 tips are some great ways for you to figure out how you can take advantage of some opportunities that are available to learn more about finance, including investing in the stock market, even before you're even able to do so.
Right. And a reminder that a lot of times when you see people who are successful, they have taken advantage of opportunities. And there's several ways opportunities come to us. One, there are opportunities where people actually just really literally come to us with an opportunity. 2, there are the opportunities where we go out and find them ourselves, but someone else will still provide us with that opportunity. And then there's the opportunities that you create for yourself. And these 5 steps are ways that you can start creating those opportunities for yourself.
Exactly. So thank you for joining us for another Career Money Follow-Up. Here is your Career Money Follow-Up takeaway from this episode. Download your free copy of the 5 building blocks of a happy gay life at debtfreeguys.com/5. And then let us know in the comment section below if you remember understanding anything about money when you were a teenager, and see what maybe we can do to help teenagers of today. Tomorrow, we're going to cover episode 42 of the Career Money Podcast when we talk about talking to your partner about money, which we've realized in hindsight, we covered this quite a bit in the first year of the Career Money Podcast.
Well, I think it's partly because we get emails from folks on a regular basis. How do I get on the same page, or how do I help my partner? In our Queer Money Facebook group, it's very interesting because there have been at least 3 people who have said that their relationships have broken up recently because they and their partner were not on the same page financially. And there are a lot of gay men who are successful who are frustrated with the fact that they're with someone who isn't doing what they feel is the right things to do with their money financially, and they feel like it's now their responsibility or a burden. You don't want to be that person for your partner, right? Or you don't, if you want to try to get your partner on the same page, we're going to talk about that tomorrow.
Exactly. So join us tomorrow. And then as always, again, as we've said several times today, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and set notifications on this channel so that you know when we go live for these follow-ups. Thank you, and we will see you tomorrow.